So welcome back to my tiny kitchen, my tiny vegan kitchen. And today I'm going to make some bread. I'm going to make some gluten-free, sugar-free, oil-free vegan bread. And it's kind of it's not a recipe. I make a different one each time. I don't measure my ingredients, so I'm just literally taking the technique I learned from my mum many moons ago, and that was just to not measure, just go on intuition, instinct, what is needed, and I will show you as I go. So I'm going to be using teff. A teff is a gluten-free grain. It's actually the smallest grain there is. It's originally from Ethiopia, and it comes in a variety of colors, and this one here is the darker one. So I'm going to use some of this. Again, I don't measure, so I'm just going to pop what I think will go in there. That should be enough. And what I will do is I'm also going to use some chia seeds. Now, chia seeds is a really good way of, it's like an egg replacement. It's like for binding them together. And chia seeds, when they're soaked and when they're stirred, they have kind of like a gelatinous consistency, so that will help to bind the ingredients together. So I'm going to add the hot water with it, and stirring it, so it makes it it takes less time to make it gelatinous. So I'm just going to put some hot water in it, about this much. That's the dark chia seeds. So I just put about that much in, and I'm just going to stir, and then I can just leave it also. As you can see, I'm using my cooker as a table. That's what you do when you're in a tiny kitchen. You improvise and use what space you have. See, it's already, you can see it kind of getting a little bit like an egg consistency. Okay, so that will even get more the longer I leave it. In fact, I'm just going to put some more water in just to give it that little bit more liquid, and stir that. And then I'm just going to leave it for now until I put the rest of the wet ingredients in. So to the dry ingredients, I'm going to add some cinnamon. Of course, where would you be without cinnamon? So lots of cinnamon. I'm also going to make some oatmeal, and I'm going to do that from my rolled oats, and I'm going to put them in a liquidizer. And I know that it's a smoothie maker, but it actually mills the oats really nicely and grinds them into like a flour. So I'm just going to put roughly about, let's say, about this much. And then I'm going to mill that in a minute, because I'm going to need to pause it because it makes a lot of noise. I'm also going to do the same process with some mixed nuts. And the raw nuts, they're not salted, they're not cooked, they're just raw, unsalted whole nuts, which are almonds, Brazil, walnuts, cashews. I think there might be 1 or 2 hazelnuts in there too. And this little nut grinder, it's only tiny, so I can do only a little bit at a time. And I'm going to put about this much in, so it makes a lot of noise, so I'm going to just pause it until they're ground. So the nuts are already mixed, and look, you can see there's still, you know, a few bigger bits in there, but that's fine, because if you wanted it any finer, then you would just blend it again for a little while. But the bits in it are quite nice, so I'm just going to tip that in. So this is the smoothie maker, and it really grinds. I use it for so much, and you can see the consistency. Look, it's just like a flour. And again, if you wanted bits of the oats to remain in the mixture, then you would just not blend it so well. So tip that in. And the next thing I'm going to add actually is a little bit of coconut, desiccated coconut, and this is literally nothing added, no salt, no sugar, no nothing. It's just desiccated pure coconut. So just a tiny little bit, because we don't want it too crumbly, and we just want to add that little bit of flavor. So put that to the side, and then we're just going to blend these dry ingredients. So just put that down again. So just make sure they're all nice and well mixed. So, and you can actually add dried fruit to this if you want. I normally use the same mix for my cookies, and with the cookies I would definitely use some dried fruit, some apricots or dates or whatever. But this bread, I'm actually not going to put any dried fruit in this time. I'm just going to use banana to sweeten. Okay, so with the banana, I'm also going to use the smoothie maker. So and this time I'm using, say, one large banana, one small. You can, yeah, if you want it more sweet, then you use more. Just break them up and put them in the container. And a small one. And I mean, you can substitute it as well. You can also have chopped apple if you like. So in order to blend this, you need a little bit more of liquid. So I'm just going to add a tiny bit of water. And I'm going to add some soy milk, and this is again dairy-free soy milk. It's also got no sugar, it's also got no salt, so I really like this one particular. So it just makes it nice and creamy. So add about this much, just enough to give it some liquid, and put the lid on, and I'm just going to blend it. So that's my liquid made, and I'm just going to add that to the chia. As you can see, the chia now is really almost stiff. So we're going to add the smoothie to it. Again, if you want it sweeter, you can actually add some dates in the liquidizer, so you get an overall sweetness without the bits in it. So we're just going to add the, sure that's all mixed together, make more liquid. And again, so you don't need eggs for anything really, because this is perfect consistency to add instead of eggs. And like I say, you can also use, instead of chia, you can also use flax. Now I'm not using the chia because chia has really a good omega-3 content. Now, I'm not using it for the omega-3 in this, simply because when chia seed and flaxseed, for example, are used in cooking, they're heat sensitive, so you lose the omega-3 benefit when you heat it. So I'm just using it now for the consistency, to bind it together, and also for the taste. And they have really good fiber. So it's a really nutritious thing to have, except when it's heated, you lose the omega-3s, but that's okay this time. Okay, so we're ready to add the wet ingredients to the dry. So we make kind of a little well, and just add. Now we're just guessing now how much we need. I'm just going to stir that in to begin with, and just make sure that there's not too much. So you just stir it from the top to make sure that it doesn't go everywhere. See, it's blending in nicely, and so it gives it a nice brown, rich color. Is the teff. You can actually get red teff and white teff, and it's originally from Ethiopia. It's really nutritious. It's actually made from a seed, so it's a really nutritious grain, gluten-free grain. So a good substitute for wheat flour, spelt flour. Okay, so add in the rest of the wet ingredients. It's very simple. At this point, actually, I'm just going to turn the oven on at 200. So turn that on for 200, and then you know it. I'm not going to say a time because it really depends. You just have to keep an eye on it. and I'll show you when I put it on the baking tray how you can make sure that it is cooked evenly or baked evenly. So now I'm just ready to lay it on the baking tray. So that's, you can see the consistency. See, it comes out in one piece. So I'm just going to tip it out here, and then I'm going to just flatten it with my hands. My hands are clean, and just flatten it. So you don't want it too thick because there's no yeast in it, because it's not sort of light and fluffy like shop bought breads. We want it not to be too thick because you want it to cook in the center, and so I'm actually going to cut it up into 4 pieces once it's flattened a little bit more. And when you slice it, when it's cooked, it will be rather thin slices and like narrow, but that's perfectly okay. Okay, so we want it about, that's about a good size. So I'm going to take the knife, and I'm just going to cut it in 4, and then I'm going to lift up each section and just spread it out a little bit so it gets a chance to cook on all corners. So my oven is, you know, it's a tiny kitchen, so my oven is also tiny. It's a combination of oven and microwave. So, and I never use a microwave, but it's not a flash oven, so I really do need to keep an eye, and sometimes I even need to turn it over to make sure it's cooked on both sides okay. But hey, it's what I have and it works, so that's good. Okay, so I'm going to take these apart as well. It's come up nice and clean actually, so about so, and this one too. And what I do is I keep 1 out and 3 in the freezer, and that works really well. So ready to put that in the oven, and like I say, we have to make sure that you keep an eye. Once it goes in the oven, you have to make sure you keep an eye on it, and again, if necessary, because of my oven, I might have to turn it over, and you'll know when it's cooked. You can also just put a little skewer in the center, and if it comes out clean, then you know it's done. But generally it should be a nice golden brown, and I will show you what I do with it when it's baked, in order to keep the crust nice and soft. So I will put it in the oven, and I'll see you in a moment. So it's out of the oven now, so I'll just show you the result. So here we go. I did have to turn it over once, and it's been in roughly about 45 minutes or so, but again, you just have to keep an eye on it. So this is a technique I learned from my dear mom, who baked bread constantly, and this was a technique that she used to keep the crust nice and soft of the soda bread. So you take a clean tea towel and you just damp it with some cold water, and just wring it out so that it's just damp, not too wet. And then you just open it out and you just place the bread on top. I'll just bring it over here. So you place the bread just on top like so, and now just make sure it's all covered like so, and then just leave it for about 20 minutes or so, and then take it out, and it will still have a crust, but it won't be so crunchy, and it's much easier to slice. So I'll just leave that for 20 minutes and then I will slice it. So it's been in this damp cloth now for about 20 minutes or so, and now I'm just going to slice it. So I'll take one of these, and see, it's, yeah, the edges are a little bit softer than if I had left it without putting it in the tea towel. So I'm just going to cut here. And this is great for breakfast or lunch. And you can just literally eat it the way it is. So if you can see the texture, so you can see some of the nuts still, and the oats as well, some of the oats. And you can use it with, you can eat it with peanut butter, avocado, banana. I love it with mashed banana and peanut butter, and some cinnamon on top, of course. But you can have it for lunch. I have it with the soup that I made the other day. That's on the channel as well. It's the first one I made. And yeah, I have it with just, if you want to have vegan cream cheese or something like that. Or of course, if you're not vegan, then you have other options too. But yes, so I'm going to keep one out, and I'm going to put the rest in the freezer. So that's it from my tiny vegan kitchen today, and I will see you next time. Bye.